We all know that Michigan State desperately needs a backup point guard out of the portal. They have one on campus right now, and it is an interesting route for Tom Izzo to go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode of Locked On Spartans. It's your team in green and white. 5 days a week, guys. Again, Locked On Podcast Network. You know where to keep it tuned. Rate, review, subscribe, comment below your thoughts on this point guard target on Michigan State's campus right now, Divine Ugochukwu. And we're going to talk about him in the first segment and then be joined by Joe Jackson, one of the great basketball minds, specifically in the Big Ten. We're going to get his thoughts on Michigan State's offseason. Have they made themselves good enough for next season? All sorts of basketball talk on today's show. But let's get it popping with talking about this backup point guard target out of the transfer portal because, yes, it seems inevitable that will be Michigan State's next piece, maybe their final piece in this offseason, and it comes by way, potentially, of Divine Ugochukwu. Now, again, he's on an official visit right now on Monday, going into Tuesday, and the 6'3", incoming sophomore, he would be, is out of Miami. Former three-star by way of Sugar Land, Texas, is where he played his high school ball. So for the Hurricanes last year, who, if you didn't see any Miami basketball last year, good for you, because that was a tough season for the Hurricanes. A lot of losses in that column in a downright bad ACC. But enough about the team as a whole. Let's talk about Mr. Divine right here. 5.3 points, 2 assists per game. He played in 28 games, 16 starts, 20 minutes per game. So as a true freshman, and depending on what you read, which I did some reading on Mr. Divine Ugochukwu, the plan apparently was that he was going to redshirt his freshman year as a former three-star, get to learn the game from the practice sessions. And then, they had so many injuries, and it was just an outright odd year for Miami last year that he had to play, like I said, 28 games, 20 minutes in each game roughly, and then 16 starts. So thrown into the fire in ACC play. So here's what we like about Divine Ugochukwu right now. What we like about him, strong finisher at the rim. I mean, this guy's 6'3". He is athletic. He finished 63% at the rim, which is above average, especially for a guard, guys. Like, this guy does get downhill. He can finish with a nice package at the rim. And like we said, he's an athlete. He's a little bit bigger, 6'3" as a point guard. He plays above the rim, which is something you don't always see out of a point guard, especially in the college ranks here. And with that 6'3" frame, guys, he's also a really solid defender. All right, he averaged about 1 steal per game, a little over 1 steal per game. So, and one more thing to like about him. Now, this depends if you're a basketball purist or not, but he wore the number 99 for Miami. So, a point guard out there, 2 9s on the jersey. So, I kind of like it. I mean, why not get nuts with your number? But yeah, that's definitely a man of confidence right there. Now, what to worry about? Right at the start of the show, we said this is an interesting route for Izzo to go. And what we mean by that is where the concerns lie with Mr. Uchechukwu. It is 17% shooting from three-point land, guys. And yes, right here in Locked On Spartans, we are just going to fly straight to the three-point percentage number because after that last season, where Michigan State was south of 300th in the nation the entire year, we're going to worry about three-point shooting just a little bit more this offseason than most years. So this is what you've lost so far this offseason. You lost Jase Richardson, Jaden Akins, Trey Holloman, Frankie Fiddler, Xavier Booker. All 5 of those names were your top 5 three-point shooters as far as attempts go. Not percentage-wise, but attempts go that you lost this offseason. Now, that might come off as odd. Like, why are you highlighting Frankie Fiddler as a guy that you lost from last year's team? He shot 19%, or even Trey Holloman shot about 32%. Jaden Akins, he was barely scraping 30%. Like, why are we making a big deal out of this? It's because at least Akins, Holloman, and Fiddler for the first half of the year before everyone kind of realized that, okay, he's not that great of a three-point shooter. And even Booker, to a sense, they were at least threats. Like, the tape on them, the book on them was at least they do have a history of being able to make these shots. When they took their jumpers, like Jaden Akins all season, it had to be respected. It offered some spacing on the floor. You get Divine Ugochukwu in here, or anyone that is coming off of a true freshman season shooting 17% from 3, it's not just a matter of, okay, it's nice to make your shots. It's nice to get space out on the court, especially when all the pieces around you are guys that could really use some floor spacing. Guys like Jeremy Fears, who, hey, I would like to get downhill, get to the lane, draw contact, get to the free throw line. That space is going to be limited. Or Cohen Carr, another downhill player. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the spacing on the floor if you insert a 17% shooter from three on the court, especially from last year's team where, like we said, you're losing a lot of guys that would take these threes and had to have their three-point shots percentages be damned, at least respected. And also, guys, he doesn't really get to the rim. 1.6 attempts per game. Again, that is on 20 minutes of game action per game. And when he did get to the rim, the free throw stripe, I should say, when he does get to the free throw stripe, 63% free throw shooter. So this isn't a situation where, his three-point shooting was a little bad, but at least he shot somewhere in the mid-70s, the low 80s, and the three-point shot is just going to come eventually. No, it seems like shooting the basketball is really going to be a work in progress here. So, again, it's not to say he's a total dud of an athlete, but this is also important to talk about, too, is that this is kind of always what was going to happen with Michigan State as they went into the transfer portal to try to find a backup guard. The only anomaly was if they got a Darius Adams, which, of course, you all know the story on that. 5-star kid, decommits from UConn. Michigan State is back in the battle. He goes to Maryland. But at least that is a guy out of the high school ranks that you had a connection with. You don't have to shell out millions upon millions of dollars like you do for all these other top guards. But that's where we're going to circle back to the point, is that this is what always was going to happen for Michigan State when trying to find a backup point guard for Jeremy Fears. You're not going to go out and spend millions upon millions of dollars for a Haggerty or an RJ Lewis, just two names, for example. There was always going to be someone that was going to play second fiddle, so to speak, to Jeremy Fears. It's not to say they can't share the court at the same time, but that is essentially what you need on this roster. Someone that could take away the 12, 15 minutes where Jeremy Fears isn't going to be on the court next year. So if not him, well, then who do you want? If you don't want Divine Ugochukwu, then who do you want? Because I am a little worried about the shooting. I'm not going to lie here. Of course, I'm not the Hall of Fame coach. I'm not the one that just brought this team to a Big Ten title, won it by 3 games. But over here, yeah, I do look at that glaringly low number from shooting the ball. And I do get a little concerned here because of the spacing and, just scoring in general. So if not him, then who? We talked about Noam Yaakov over from Israel. It doesn't seem like that will materialize here. But, someone like that from overseas, someone that has played against older competition, really shined against competition the same age as them, but that might be a ship that has sailed. So you go on 24/7 Sports or Rivals. You just start scrolling at, okay, what cards are available? Who's even out there? You got to scroll down a lot, though, because it was always going to be a guy like this, someone else from a Power 5 school that was also kind of a backup role there, played 15, 20-ish minutes a game, or someone from a much lower rank, mid to low major, okay, is waiting for an opportunity at a big school like Michigan State. One name that I pulled out, and I don't think Michigan State's even in contact with this kid, but if you guys want me to name a name, sure, here you go. Jordan Ivy Curry. He's a 5th-year player, point guard. He played at UCF. He played at UTSA. He played a year at Pacific, but this is a guy that could shoot the ball, played about 20-ish minutes per game, has experience at now high major basketball at UCF, and might not be opposed to coming off the bench and gobbling up 12, 15. Heck, he could probably play a little bit of combo guard, 20-ish minutes per game. So if you guys wanted a name out there, sure. Jordan Ivy Curry, or just someone that could play a little bit of both position and score at both positions. I know it's easier said than done because, again, guys, we talked about this too when we talked about Divine previously and Noam Yaakov previously, who also had some shooting issues himself. But when you're going out looking for a backup point guard, you're not going to find a lot of 10s out there, the lights are flickering at the end of a night at Rick's, and it's time to kind of settle. Also, when you're talking to these point guards, you're not going to sell them on, hey, come in here, be a starter. They're not lying to these kids. These kids also probably understand that Jeremy Fears is there. When you're looking for a backup guard in the transfer portal, you probably got to settle for something, right? Okay, he's a good athlete. He's 6'3", plays above the rim. Awesome. What's the blemish, though? What's that giant pimple on the forehead? Okay, it's the shooting number. We'll see if Michigan State can get behind that. But I will say this, too. Michigan State's not the only school involved in Divine Ugochukwu's recruitment. He also is with Texas Tech and USC, listening to what they have to say, too. So it's going to be a high major battle for Michigan State, but That's where we're at right now. All right, guys, we're going to be joined by Joe Jackson here. Again, great basketball mind. Cannot wait to talk to him. But first, need to chat everyone's ears off about Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, whoa, my goodness, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Now, Monarch Money isn't just a normal budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center, so you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building your wealth. Guys, when I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery, and right now, hey, I'm budgeting a lot smarter and save even more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Again, guys, monarchmoney.com. Guys, I am thrilled to be joined by Joe Jackson, one of the greatest basketball minds that you could possibly find, not just on Twitter at Joe Jackson CBB, but also Feed the Post on his YouTube channel and his Substack. Joe, my goodness gracious, happy offseason, even though, there really is never an offseason these days. But how on earth are you doing, man? We doing okay?
Yeah, doing good. Appreciate the intro right there. That's a very good intro. But yeah, sure. Doing good. We're still, 6 months away from college basketball actually being back, but feels like there's still plenty to talk about. And with the portal, it's not a 365-day sport, like NBA and NFL, but it's getting closer to that, which isn't a bad thing. It's getting closer.
Right. Yeah. We just burnt up the first segment talking about a portal target for Michigan State in the midst of May and everything. And just like you said, 6 months away from the season starting. But let's go back to 2 months ago, because that's when Michigan State clinched the Big Ten title, won it by 3 games. Still want to remind everyone about that over here. But there's some time that has passed here. And in that time, Joe, what do you still think about when it comes to Michigan State's season last year? Is it something that you think they can carry into following years? Is it a player sticking out? Or what's the first thing that pops in your mind when you think of Michigan State's season last year?
Just impressive, right? And, even for me, I was definitely I was hesitant to be bought in on this MSU team. I'm just like, hey,
same. Yeah.
Who's this? Who's going to score the ball when it's needed? I knew the defense would be good. The shooting was what it was. It was just like, it felt like at some point it was just going to fall. Like the bottom was just going to fall out, and it just never did. And so really, I guess the first thing is just credit to Izzo and the team for just being bought in. They won in different ways. They didn't, right? It was, Jase emerging as a true superstar, I think raised the ceiling of the team to me. But they still got to the, that wasn't until January-ish, right? That he kind of even started doing that. And they got to that point, 16-2, whatever the kind of the cutoff you want to call. They still won a lot of games before that, and right, dominated the glass, dominated the paint, dominated the free throw line. Like they just did it in different ways that you don't always expect. So really, the first thing that still just pops into my head is just impressive. Jase emerging was what raised the ceiling to me of this team. But yeah, I know it's happened a couple times in the past couple years. It is not common to win the Big Ten by 3 games.
Sure.
That's just not, it just doesn't happen. And so for this team to be able to do that, make the Elite Eight and have a, they had a good chance at one point of making the Final Four. Just a really, really, really impressive year for a team that, I think I predicted them preseason. I have it somewhere 9th, 10th, 11th, middle of the pack. Of the pack.
That's kind of where I was too. I was like, okay, maybe 7th in the Big Ten. They'll get an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament again, and then this is going to just be the slog of a season we'll walk through for the 4th straight year. And then, oh my God, Jase Richardson's so good. Yeah. And it wasn't just Jase Richardson too, but it was also a harkening back to Tom Izzo basketball of rebounding, defending, running, just that great stylistic appeal that we grew up with here in East Lansing. Amongst all those things, though, whether it is the rebounding, the defense, the transition, is there anything that Michigan State really did that impress you that you think can be sustainable even in next year's group already as we start to look forward to next season?
Yeah, I think the rebounding definitely stands out as something that's sustainable. You mentioned it just now, the pushing of the pace. I think they really got back to being able to just push, and Fears is a big part of that. I know we'll talk about him more in a minute, but he's a big part of that, and his kind of continued development as the lead playmaker. Obviously, got shot his freshman year, so he missed some time. Impressive just in itself to come back from that, but then to play the level he did. So the pushing of the pace, I think the rebounding, it's going to be interesting to see I think how he balances Carr, Kohler, Cooper minutes, like is it going to play big and start all three? Is Cooper going to continue to come off the bench like he did last year? So that'll be something I'm watching for. But I think the way that MSU won for a lot of the games, like I think you can plug players into that style. Obviously, you have to still get the results. And it's not like the easiest thing to do, like just naturally, but I think there is replicable stuff for sure.
And you're a big X's and O's guy. You're one of the great minds on Twitter. Like we said, you can do great film breakdowns, all that stuff. If I could just butter your biscuit even more than we already have in the show.
Appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Hey, always here on Locked On Spartans. We will gas you up like no one else. But truly, like you do have a great basketball mind, so a little bit higher level than the average viewer, of course. So we talk about defending, rebounding, running. That's something we could all see, of course. But was there something even deeper in the X's and O's that you really thought was unique from Michigan State this season that kind of took you aback and maybe you haven't seen from former Tom Izzo teams?
I mean, I like to getting the ball in Fears' hand more and more pick and roll, and some of that stuff comes from him. Like he's going to push the ball. Like I think what stood out really a lot to me is like they push the ball. But if that initial 5 seconds isn't there, then they're going to pull it out and they run a lot of horn sets. So that's when two guys at the elbows, two bigs at the elbows, two guys in the corners, and they can run a lot of stuff from there. We know Michigan State offense in general is going to be a lot of, there's going to be the off-ball screens for shooters and things. But I thought especially last year more than maybe recent years, just getting the ball in Fear's hand, getting the ball in Jase's hand and just being like, all right, pick and roll, like go create. I think I felt like that was, I don't have the numbers exactly to back it up off the top of my head. Just thinking back, it felt like that was something they went to a little bit more. And the way that the game's evolving, pick and roll is just becoming, everybody runs it. But to the extent, I feel like last year was like a lot more than even the previous 2 years, even with AJ Hoggard and that. It felt like there was just more trust in what Fears is doing. Also, just how they use Kohler with, at times pick and pop, at times just rolling and kind of sealing his guy and posting up on the block. Like I liked how they used him a lot as well.
I would love to keep the conversation on Jeremy Fears right now and also turn you into a teacher. We're going to ask for a letter grade from you right now because there's a little bit of conversation amongst Michigan State fans of, okay, well, let's go and get a backup point guard for Jeremy Fears. Then there's another faction of the fan base that's saying, well, how about someone that could actually battle him for a starting position? I, for one, am in the camp that I'm sold that he is a starting point guard. Like that was kind of in a way his freshman year, plus overtime, of course, with the incident that happened in his true freshman year. But look, is he a complete package right now? No. His shooting can use some improvement, of course. But I think that he's a plus point guard in Big Ten play. What letter grade would you give him right now? Because right now I'd give him like a B, bordering on B plus, which had worked for me back in the day. So
there you go.
Why I want to give that grade.
That's kind of where I went to. It was like B. Now the Big Ten is going to be stacked at the point guard spot this year.
Unfortunately, so yeah,
it is stacked. So this isn't quite Big Ten will probably have the 3 best point guards in the country in the preseason. So like, and obviously rosters are still being completely formed, but like Fears to me is probably in that 6 to 8 best point guard range, 6 to 9, something somewhere in there, somewhere in that range. I don't have a definitive answer. It's early May. I can get one later in the offseason, but somewhere in that range in relative to the Big Ten is kind of where I have him.
So it's Braden Smith, Donovan Dent for the other one, and then I know I'm missing. I'm blanking.
Bennett
hard
Sturts at Iowa is who I would put.
Oh, sure, that did happen, didn't it? Yeah. I always forget about Iowa. I'm so sorry.
And there's. And I just forgot because Illinois got Mihailo Petrovic, he's a 22-year-old that's might win MVP in a top 10 league in the world. So he probably also has to be thrown in that mix too as a point guard. So I forgot about him.
The European Illini are going to be a wagon next year. We'll get to the other strong teams of the Big Ten, especially your Boilermakers here to end this show here. But just to keep it on Michigan State right now, let's keep diving into this offseason because point blank, I think another great question that's been thrown around by Michigan State fans is, has MSU gotten better, or are they going to be good enough going into Big Ten play? And just to tabulate the score for everyone right now, they subtracted Jaden Akins, of course, Jamon Sapala, Frankie Fiddler. They lost Trey Holloman and Jase Richardson. Now you've added so far Cam Ward and Jordan Scott. Those are your 2 freshmen coming in, and also Caleb Glenn out of FAU, Trey Fort out of Samford. Let's say that they don't get Divine Ugochukwu. This is the point guard on campus right now that Michigan State's in a battle for. let's just say the roster is what it is right now. Is this good enough to compete for a championship next year, Joe? Or are you looking around all the other programs and saying, oh boy, everyone else is going at rocket speed? Well, Michigan State's just kind of going at like a race car pace.
I think for as of right now, I have them, probably not competing for the Big Ten title. Like, I honestly would view their year, what I would predict their upcoming year to be kind of like what Purdue's was last year, where it's like,
okay.
And preseason expectations will be a little bit different because I think the Big Ten is just going to be very, very, very good this year.
Yeah.
But right where Purdue was like, hey, they're good. Maybe if everything breaks, they could sort of compete at the top. Obviously, that didn't happen, and they had their struggles, but they're still, they finished like 12-8 or 13-7 in Big Ten play, something like that. 13-7, they were, whatever, 6th seed in the Big Ten tournament, something like that. Feels pretty realistic to me for Michigan State. I don't know if I trust that the ceiling is as high as, the Illinois, Michigan, Purdue type teams.
Right.
But, Fears, Carr, Kohler is your core. Izzo is the coach. Like, it's hard to be like, oh yeah, this team's going to be bad.
It'd be silly to say that, especially, after I spent most of the offseason last year talking about, like, I think it's going to be more of the same. Like, yes, they do like some pieces. They do have some things that can make their ceiling a little higher. But my God, they even went above that. And that was without some things working their way, too. Like Xavier Booker, I thought for sure had to be a factor this season. He was a healthy scratch player at the end of last year. Like, they mystified me. So right now, I do like the direction the offseason is going. I think they added some smart pieces, got better shooting, added some athletes, some age, some experience, yes. Joe, which you see some of these teams out there with 37-year-old guys out there. It's like, I want one of those.
You got one.
We do got one in Trey Ford. It's pretty nice, but is it going to be good enough? I don't think so, but I got to be kind of a little subdued with that, especially with how Ron, and I was very glad to be wrong about it last year, but we'll see if Tom's got another year of magic up his sleeve here. But we do know this, and this is also something we always say when we talk about the offseason, like retaining a Jackson Kohler, retaining Cohen Carr, retaining Jeremy Fears. That's important in the transfer portal era. Like, you do have to give a nod to that. So of those three players, Kohler, Carr, Fears, I know we've already talked about a lot. Who's the most important returner on this team? Who should we be celebrating the most that we've kept here in East Lansing so far?
I think there's my immediate gut is Fierce, just because, right? I think he just fits everything that Izzo wants in a point guard for the most part. Tough, you're going to push the ball, really good passer. You already mentioned the jumper. It's not like he shot poorly. It's just he didn't shoot him. And so, teams just didn't respect him, so I can make spacing wonky. So, that's my initial thought, because, without Fears, I think, if you were to subtract out any of those three, I think Fears is the hardest to replace. But at the same time, I think you can make the argument that probably Kohler, and maybe Carr, but I would lean Kohler is maybe the ceiling type raiser of, we saw, Kohler, he played well last year. He had a couple really, really, really big games, too. If he can really emerge as a all Big Ten type guy, or right in that top 15-ish 20 range, that's then a guy where MSU can kind of dump the ball into. They can run stuff for him. And yes, I know, I feel like MSU, especially as of late, has been more of guard oriented with Jase and Jaden Akins and all that for the past few years. But this could be getting back to a little bit of getting a true big that can just be, I don't know if dominant's the right word, but close to that level.
I might recycle this question for future segments that just popped up in my head right now, but who does have the higher ceiling between Jackson Kohler and Cohen Carr, which kind of sounds silly because Cohen Carr is 20 times the athlete that Jackson Kohler is, but that's not to say that Jackson Kohler is bad, because look, his resume is one of the best rebounders in the Big Ten. If he can knock down those 3-point shots like we saw against Auburn, unfortunately didn't materialize, but I would say at Illinois that certainly counted. If he's that kind of a player, oh my God, that's a great ceiling for Michigan State. Whereas Cohen Carr, the guy's got a 70-inch vertical. If he gets a jump shot going, my goodness gracious, that's one of the better players. So who do you think right now has a higher ceiling, as odd of a question as that may sound like?
Ceiling, I'll go Carr, just because he just has some of the tools. It's just you
hard to replicate,
cannot teach that.
Yeah.
And he'll have an extra year to Kohler will. You can still improve, obviously, going into your senior year, but you're a little bit closer to just who you are at that point, I think, where And what Carr wasn't like super in the rotation his freshman year, if I remember correctly. Right?
Correct.
Like he was
right.
He was in it, but it wasn't like a major piece. So, yeah, like you said, if he can develop a jumper, that would be like that might be the single biggest thing for Michigan State. Like if he can develop a jumper and teams have to respect it, then that changes, I think, the outlook a lot of like, all right, you can play him with Kohler and Cooper and you have no real concerns about spacing, or you can play him at the 4 and he's going to be a matchup nightmare for some of these 4s because he can still, create off the dribble a little bit, and he's a good rim protector, and and I think the rebounding can also be pretty. I mean, he was solid. I think it can be even better. Yeah. So I'll say he has the higher ceiling, but like he has the higher ceiling. Kohler has the higher floor, I think, to me.
Let's talk about a player that we haven't mentioned yet, because this mailbag question comes from Tom Izzo. Wrote in, realistically, how big of steps do Carr, Fears, and Tang need to take to compete for Big Ten titles and Final Fours based on our movement in the portal compared to teams like Purdue, which we will get to in a hot second. But I just want to pull it out and just talk about Curt Tang here. This is a kid obviously did not play a ton, especially deep into the season, very limited. But there's still some faith and belief that he will become this, solid shooter, especially off these pin downs, the horn sets that we talked about earlier. Just how big of a season does he have to have? You could either do that like numerically, like, he has to average 8 points, or just, what he could offer as far as intangibles to a team. How do you want to take this, Joe? You're behind the wheel now. So where do you want to take this Curt Tang car right now?
Yeah, I mean, I was big on Curt Tang going into last season, truthfully, and hopefully, maybe I'll try. I'm trying to improve in my player analysis going into this offseason. But like, I had Curt Tang started like being the guy over Jase. I thought that honestly, their kind of outcomes would have been flopped from what they were. Obviously, that was dead wrong. But I think when I watched the Curt Tang high school film last summer, it was like, this like the Tom Izzo basically probably I think would have had to pull up like 5 minutes of film of like Jay Nakins and other guys just running off pin downs and be like, hey, that's you. And Curt Tang would be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah, that works. No, I do think, especially with, Trey Ford is a good shooter, is a known good shooter. Outside of that, like Kohler and Fears, it's like, they can shoot. They shot well on lower attempts. I don't. I haven't watched Jordan Scott or Cam Moore too much. Like maybe they're better shooters than what I'm aware of. But the lack of shooting is something that can present itself, and Curt Tang is a guy that if he can play, if Trey Fort works and Curt Tang works, where now Curt Tang can play 15, 20 minutes, maybe more if things really go well. But somewhere in that range where he can fill in, be a legit shooter, be a legit floor spacer. I do think they're going to need it from somewhere. And Tang's, I don't know how people view him versus Ford. I don't know if that's like will be a battle or anything for playing time, but it feels like it's got to be for one of those two guys. Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where like, hey, it's Ford, you're the experienced guy, you're 24 years old. This is going to be your primary role, but yeah, the door's certainly open for Tang there. Yeah, we actually talked about that in the first segment. It's like we lost our top 5 3-point attempts guy. Now, of course, they didn't all go in, but even though Akins was around 30%, Holloman was around 31%, they still had to respect those shots. They were historically decent shooters, and now you've lost those guys. You need someone that can at least space the floor a little bit, especially for a guy who's playing style like Fears is, okay, I want to get into the lane, or Carr, for example, but we'll see how it all nets out here. Joe, before we let you go, again, like you hammer it all home, primarily with the Big Ten. You got a special spot in your heart for all teams, but maybe just a little bigger for Purdue, who, my God, just straight up, is it national title or bust? Am I being a little bit too hyperbolic here? Like, what's it like in the shoes of a Boiler fan right now?
So I'll speak for myself, and I think I probably align with a lot of Purdue fans, but maybe not. For me, it is almost title or bust, and maybe if the season happens and they win the Big Ten and they make the Final Four, like
Great
maybe
season.
I'll be able to like it's not like it's going to be like a bad season, but just it's almost just right. I try to stay X's and O's and on court and like real analysis, but being able to step back from that and being like, well, okay, the Final Four is in Indy. To me, this is not that Purdue's going to be. It's Final Four is in Indy. Like,
I forgot about that.
Purdue's. I still will think will be good in the coming years, But to me, this year is going to be like the end of an era where you have this
Mm-hmm.
Edie into Braden Smith and TKR transition. Like
Yep.
it's the end of an era. It's in Indy. You have this trio of Braden, Fletch, and TKR who, Braden and Fletch have started every single game together. Braden's going to be, one of the preseason up favorites for National Player of the Year, and
Mm-hmm.
TKR will be one of the best players in the Big Ten. So you get this trio, and right, they're all Indiana kids. Like just all these kind of storylines merge into like, all right, you did the Final Four a couple years ago or 2 years ago. Like now it's in Indy. Like this has to be the year. It has to, because if not, then it's like, all right, I don't know when it would happen.
When they announced the opponents and it was like, oh, Michigan State playing Purdue only on the road in Mackey, I said, oh, I won't even watch. That's okay. Of course I'm kidding. I'll watch every second of that game. I'm wondering why I'm spending my night like this, but not looking forward to that one. But until then, hey, we're going to enjoy the rest of this offseason, whatever games happen before that point. And Joe, I cannot thank you enough for hopping on here, man. Always on your Twitter feed, and I was like, I got to get this guy on in the offseason. So thanks a lot for responding and also agreeing to jumping on the show. Anything you want to plug here before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your week?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. Definitely down to come back on whenever you want. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at JoeJacksonCBB. And then right now, Substack, Feed the Post, that is more pure Big Ten. We'll break down film of every single newcomer to the Big Ten, freshmen and transfers in. So have film breakdowns there. Also, you can subscribe to my YouTube, Feed the Post. That's a little bit more college basketball, kind of national centric. But yeah, appreciate you having me on.
Oh, I already can't wait to drag you back on here. Can't wait for it, man. But until then, hey, take care of yourselves. And all the viewers, all the listeners, take care of yourselves, guys. Love you all. Go Green.